Perfect. Awesome. All right, guys. Welcome to our first installment of the Rest Day Radio podcast, hosted by coaches here at SoCal Powerlifting. Super excited to start hosting these podcasts. Can be one time per month, but the main goal for these podcasts is just kind of get the coach's side and knowing or letting all of our clients know that we are real people and things we deal with in terms of coaching, but also this is also educational for a lot of our athletes and knowing that we definitely care about you guys. And in terms of coaching, we usually have this call a meeting every Tuesday talking about our athletes, their wins, their troubleshooting, but for the most part, we're going to go over usually 3 topics into these podcasts and pretty much have all of our coaches here deliberate. But if anything, one of the biggest things is we just want to let you guys know that we are human and we really are excited to have these podcasts be more of a reflection of each of our psyche in a sense, and ensuring that knowing that all of our coaches here are different in terms of our ways of coaching, and as well as our methodology is very broad and we have a huge spectrum of knowledge to be able to share with all of our athletes. So I'm super excited to get this started. We'll go ahead and start off. So this is episode 1. Topic for this episode is coaching real athletes, not perfect ones. So I'm going to have I have 3 topics for all of our coaches, and we'll go ahead and start debating on top of that. You know, usually we used to have like a Google Meet call or a Discord call, kind of just going over Q&As and topics. But I think now it's going to be just more of like, let's just lay it on you guys. And this is good content for you guys to listen to either while you're training or while you're driving or anything on that matter, just to know that we're giving you as much content as possible. But number 1, first topic for today, managing athlete burnout, frustration, and emotional crashes. What do you guys usually deal with that? Who wants to get started?
Tell us.
Alex? All right, let's do it.
Yeah, dude, that's one thing I honestly feel like I struggle with because I don't want to say I don't experience it, but like I'm not going to not train, right? Like if I don't train, my mentals get significantly worse. Physically, I feel off. For me, training is just kind of what gives me like balance and centers me so that I feel like I can handle the other challenges of life. And so I'm going to do that no matter what. So when someone talks about burnout and not wanting to train, I struggle with it, to be honest. But one of the big things I try to do is just like figure out what is driving that, right? And usually it's not training. It's not that they don't like coming to the gym. Like we have a pretty active, pretty solid community here. It's not like they don't like coming to see their friends. It's that they don't like doing the same damn 3 movements over and over and over. And that makes sense to me, right? Like powerlifting is super repetitive. And especially if you're not consistently adding weight to your squat, bench, and deadlift, you're just like, you feel like you're bashing your head against the wall, right? So even though kind of this super comp specific wave is kind of taken over the powerlifting meta lately, for me, it's like, that's one of the best times to get away from that, right? Like, man, you're really sick of it. Squat, bench, and deadlift suck. Like, man, maybe we do like pendulum squats as your main movement one day, right? Like just get jack juicy quads, right? Maybe it's using an SSB or, oh, deadlifts are horrible. Cool. Use a trap bar. You can feel like an athlete again, right? Do more bodybuilding stuff. As Joselle's come on board and give some good insight into kind of the athletic training world. We've had Matt in here as well. I've implemented more of that kind of stuff too, right? Like change it up, use bands, use chains, use stuff that maybe isn't the perfect tool to get an athlete ready for competition. But when they're experiencing burnout, that's a great way to do it. And if you're someone who's just like, man, I'm experiencing burnout, I don't want to train at all. You know, if that happens for waves, all right, cool. And if you need a little break from the gym, I'm sure one of our other coaches will touch on that. There's a time and place for that. But if you're someone who consistently is like, I just don't want to train, shit, maybe you're not the right person for SoCal powerlifting.
Definitely. Oh, I like that. Very spicy. Yeah, no, honestly, I feel like in a good hot take portion of that is knowing the person in their lifting age, in my opinion. I think the biggest thing is like, all right, you get a new client and they're young and let's see how long we can kind of not squeeze a lot of juice out of them, but more of just like, all right, cool. Let's see how well we can manage your expectations leading into training and how like your training age may affect how well you're able to progress into the actual sport. And I see that a lot. You know, a lot of people kind of burn bright and burn out fast in terms of powerlifting. I don't think it's necessarily like setting those high expectation goals in a sense, but I think it's more of always saying that powerlifting is a marathon, not a sprint, you know, and that's how you get burnt out super fast. But
Totally. I think a big part of it too is like, what's that? I think it's an Einstein quote. If I'm misappropriating that, let me know. But it's like this definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Is that Einstein?
I think
All right, cool.
so.
Whoever that quote is, right? If you're not getting results, you're going to develop that burnout, right? You're feeling like you're going crazy because you're just doing it over and over again. So that's where I think setting small goals comes into play, right? I like changing up the training modality because it's like, oh, cool, I haven't done trap bar deadlifts in forever. Like, I don't program those for many people. That's maybe a bad example, but I haven't pushed my SSB for a heavy triple in a long time. Like, then you can feel progress there, but you can even do that in just rep ranges, right? Like, your singles aren't progressing. Oh, cool. You set a new 5-rep max, whatever that looks like, right? Find what a small win is, what you can push, what you can progress on. John, this is something we've talked about with your back injury lately, right? Like, John's been dealing with a back injury and hasn't been able to push a heavy squat. So now you're pushing like Zercher squats and block pulls and some weird stuff, right? But it's like, you're able to train hard. You're able to push. You're able to, even if it's a PR and something super non-comp specific, you're setting a PR. Like, you find some enjoyment in that again, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think a big part of it is reframing your goals, like changing what the outcome is in terms of what you're hoping to accomplish with your training. So yeah, for me, Mike, for example, is like right now, just get healthy. But for people who just like maybe are, like you said, like sick of just pushing SPD all day, like, okay, well, you know, what do you want to do? Like, what are your goals? Even if that means just being, you know, healthy, whatever that means, is different for so many people. Kind of figure out what that new perspective is and try to cater to that as much as you can, and hopefully get them back into the swing of things.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people that really try to feel like that burnout is in terms of they come into the gym, they see their program, and they're like, well, I've been doing this for the past like 3-4 months or so. But like, if they're progressing though, that's another question. You know, it's just like, don't want to change what ain't broke, you know? And I feel like a lot of people kind of come into terms of like, oh, there's like, I want to try this, I want to try that, but like, I'm always upfront with them, like, is your squat going up? They're like, yeah. And then like, what's the whole point of changing it up? You know, and like, you're not ready. You're so close to, it's like, say they're getting closer to a meet. Like, this is the time to stay super consistent. And even if training is freaking boring, like it's still working, you know? And I run into that a lot. And old coach Tim would be like, oh, or like younger coach Tim would be like, oh yeah, we'll switch it up because like I want to make the athlete happy. But now it's just more of like, dude, it's working super well. Maybe we can change around another accessory or something like that. But right now, like if someone's just so good at say like deadlift sixes and they're just, you can see their top end of their deadlift going super well and they're hitting their PRs in terms of their primaries, I'm like, dude, there's no point of just pulling it back. Like things are going really, really well, and just do what works, you know? But again, it's different for every athlete. If it does get boring, I can testify to that, but hey, it's like same thing. Like a sprint is super fun. You know, you're gonna race your friends in terms of that, like for a 100-meter dash or 40-meter dash. But a marathon, oh my God, you have to prepare for that. And in terms like the end goal is the light at the tunnel is like your meet. Therefore, you're gonna be more, I'll say like process oriented, in my opinion, versus like that results oriented towards the end. But again, it differs between anyone. But anyone else have a hot take on that?
Yeah, I think we had this conversation like a week or two together. Just talking about like ourselves, like being process or goal oriented, based off what you just said, Tim. And like I think myself, like being a competitive athlete where I was playing, you know, 1 or 2 like games a week and then playing practice games or scrimmages every day. You get so used to competing. And then in powerlifting, like you compete every couple of months, if that. For me, it's been like 5, maybe 6 years. So I think knowing yourself is probably huge. And like knowing why you're crashing out is huge. And then I think as coaches, we have to kind of bridge that gap, right? Like obviously we can look at data, we can look at programs. Everything is pretty much transcribed with the way we program. Like we can see the volume, we can see the accessories, we can see when we have changed things or not, and how things are working. But it's also subjective from the athlete, right? Like the kind of feedback that you need to give to your coach and communicate is like, yeah, I just feel burnt out, or like I'm bored, I need new stimulus. Like that's completely natural. But I think, like Tim, like you just said, it's like if it's working, you know, there has to be give and take with that.
I would say too, like, it's rare that I see an athlete whose program is working that then comes to me and says they have burnout. I think those things are two very like interconnected, right? So it depends on the person, right? Someone who maybe saw a lot of progress up front where they were seeing, 10, 20 kilo PRs consistently because they're getting those newbie gains. And then all of a sudden it slows up to the stage we're all in, right? Where it's like you're killing yourself for 2.5 kilos. That's one thing, right? But like for the most part, if someone is seeing progress, they're not going to be complaining about burnout if that's what's important to them. And then if not, I think it's our job as coaches to figure out what is important, right? If they're seeing progress and they're like, I'm just feeling burnout, I'm not enjoying it. Dude, why? Like, is it the training environment? Is it that your goals aren't actually to get stronger in powerlifting right now? You want more physique goals, you want whatever. Like, if any of these goals are as important to you as you say they are, and when they signed up with us, we ask what their goals are, right? Everyone has a big goal. If it's important to you and you're making progress towards it, I just feel like it's pretty rare that you see burnout there, right? It's usually when the progress slows up. And so that's where I think it's important to find a secondary goal, small goals, things like that, and make gradual changes.
Definitely. I think
somebody said this. Okay.
Go ahead. You're good.
I was going to say, like novelty, right? Like switching things up or just changing small things that aren't going to make or break what your coach is programming. Like obviously, if your coach wants you to hit top single at 9, like you don't want to deviate that if you have a meet coming up. But like warm up things, like we were speaking about, Alex, or like I don't know, little ways to make training fun again. Like you're definitely in control of that. Like it's the same as like taking the long way to work. Like you're tired of driving the same path every day, then just go a different way. It's really not that crazy. And it's just little things that keep you going in the long run, I think, are huge.
Totally.
Yes.
Like it's such a rigid sport. Developing some flexibility is huge, right? Like on one hand, I've heard some coaches kind of get shit talked for having, back movement of choice or whatever program. And I think that's fair. Like back movement or something that's kind of a big deal. Fine, fair enough, right? But like bicep movement of choice, dude, you've been doing incline dumbbell curls for 3 weeks and you want to do a cable curl for the next couple? Okay. Like stuff like that is the smallest change. But man, in the sport where we compete on the same damn 3 movements, even getting that much flexibility feels like such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed too is I find some little I gamify my accessories even. Like sometimes there's like 3 of us doing Bulgarian split squats in the accessory room the other day, and we were just there pushing each other, trying to like kind of shit talking each other, being like, oh, you should go up, you should do more weight. So doing stuff like that with your accessories especially helps you not only push your accessories, but kind of brings that competitive spirit back in to just training.
Definitely. The lost art of having a training partner.
Oh man.
I miss that.
Yeah.
Obviously, me and Kyle know that in terms of our Monday session. I always like get sad because Kyle's already done on the pendulum. I'm like, oh, like I have pendulum today. And like that's like I remember the other day when we were like, oh shit, we both have pendulum today. Like that was probably one of my favorite pendulum squat sessions in a while. And I know it's a really hard movement to do, but like knowing that you were there and like kind of pushing me and you were going fucking hard too, I'm like, fuck, dude, I want this back. Like I really want, like, in terms of finding not necessarily a training partner, but like Megan said, like everyone doing Bulgarians on like that Monday or something like that, like people pushing and like kind of being a bit more scrappy with it is awesome, and that's like what I feel like. Me personally, I wouldn't get burnt out of like powerlifting or just training in general, and my emotions would definitely change. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like I gotta beat Kyle next time he does pendulum. Obviously, I'm not going to beat Kyle in pendulum squat, but it's just more of like cool. It just motivating me a lot better, and like I'm not as frustrated in terms of my training of like if my squat didn't go well during that day. But if I still have to complete my whole workout and I have pendulum squat and Kyle's there, oh, dude, like my total mood is going to be off the roof. I'm like, all right, let's fucking do this. Like Kyle's showing up to do this, I need to show up and do this as well too.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like, when we're just doing bro days, I think we all got into lifting, probably doing bro splits, right? And it's like you just go show up. I know I'm hitting chest day. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm showing up with my buddy. Oh, he put this on the hammer strength chest press. I'll put another 10 on or whatever it is, right? But like that drives so much of the early progress. And that's something we kind of lose when we get on this super strict, rigid program, right? So I think looking for little ways to introduce some more of that competitiveness, right? You figured out you do pendulum squat same day as Kyle right now. Cool. You guys are probably going to do that together often, right? Yeah. Even if you don't, like, shout out Dylan, who used to train here. When we figured out we were close to each other on dips, we were racing to 3 reds on dips for like sets of 6. We were training on different days, but like I would post on my story and tag him and be like, I'm gonna beat you to it, right? Like little things like that. You know, I saw it. I know Anna will do that on Bulgarians, and kind of the whole gym, even if you're doing it on different days, are kind of challenging each other, right? So I think having some competitiveness and shit talking, even if you got to go out of your way to kind of bring that in when you do follow a strict program, is so huge.
Yeah, I think the main thing too, like a shout out Justin Emig, and like we were kind of going back and forth of like, oh, how much you're gonna do on the belt score RDL, and I'm like, bro, like you just gotta beat me, you know. I think I had like 2 reds and a yellow on it, and I did for 8 reps, and he's all like, oh shit, okay, I need to catch up to you. And then he came up to me the other day, I was all like, bro, I hit it, what's the next one? I'm like, fuck yeah, that's sick, you know. It's like we're not competing in the terms of what our squat, bench, deadlift is. If it's the accessories, that's super fun. And also like I like having that quote unquote op in the gym, what the kids say nowadays. And since I'm moving up to 82.5, my other op is Adrian. But look, like unfortunately he's like not at 100% right now. And other day I came up to him like, yo man, like we do regionals together, we're gonna like beat, like I'm gonna race you to QT. He's all like, oh, I'm not as healthy right now. I'm like, oh, like I felt like a dick saying that. I'm like, oh man,
He'll
like
get
yeah,
back.
he'll get there. Hopefully he'll get there. I was like, oh, okay, sorry, man. And then I just walked away. It was super awkward because like I want that competitiveness in terms of either if they're in your similar weight class, similar strength as you. I mean, they don't even have to be in your weight class. It's just more of like, cool, like let's like I know you and I, John, had that running race of like bench 170, you know, and like I think I still owe you bear flag or some shit on that end, because you beat me to it. You were the first to hit it. I should have nerfed you, but yeah, I mean it's fun, you know. I love that camaraderie in terms of like I think that's one of the biggest things of managing athlete burnout, to be honest. And like that's usually my go-to. And I think gamifying, like Megan said, is just having that that extra push, not your own motivation, but other motivation kind of trickling in. It just goes a long way, to be honest. So, but yeah. Kyle, do you want to say anything on this? Yes. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
I don't see that. Okay. Like Alex was talking about, we kind of started with like bro splits and stuff, but after that, then we kind of started with early kind of the early era of like social media powerlifting, where programs were very kind of rigid, but I feel like it was a lot more zoomed out compared to now, where it is very rigid in the sense of like specificity. I think that we can credit that to the burnout because it's very boring and monotonous, although very effective. But I think now I believe that we're kind of getting outside of the meta in a sense where we can kind of zoom out and acknowledge that there are other movements that aren't all that specific, but are very effective, especially in like a a building phase or an off season, doing things like SSB, seriously, or like high bar or even front squats are very much demonized, but they have their merit, and those can be ways to serve to gamify training a bit, where it's like, okay, damn, I haven't touched front squats in ages. I wonder where I'm at now that I squat like almost 200 pounds more than last time I touched them. When it comes to the back squat, so I'm surely a lot stronger, although the mobility is gone for now. But I think that could spark a lot of new kind of like growth, sure, but also just training's fun again, because you're like literally starting from ground zero in a sense on a movement, and it might carry over into your lifts, where now when you do kind of switch into that more specific mode, you might actually find that, damn, I can maintain positions better or whatever it is. And yeah, also gamifying those accessories too. So it's kind of cool to see that. And I just feel like we can handle more than we think we can, because now I'm realizing that my lifter Kayla, she's doing all these workouts outside of program stuff, but look at her, she's hitting PRs and stuff. So I feel like she's having a blast training in general. So she's gamifying training for content, and she's doing that outside programmed lifts, but she's still making progress. So don't be afraid to like push it on those accessories and challenge each other and whatnot. So
yeah, that's huge.
One point you made there, Kyle, that I think is really interesting is like, as powerlifting as a sport has exploded across social media, like people get into the sport so much earlier in their lifting journey, right? Like I was benching, 225 for reps before I ever thought about doing a powerlifting meet. And I don't say that as like a brag, like it took me a long time to get there. It just was like, I got pinned under an empty barbell the first time I tried to bench in the gym, bro. I was tiny. But I was decently strong before I ever thought about competing, because it wasn't even like on my radar of doing a powerlifting meet until I was already like one of the stronger dudes in my local commercial gym. And then through social media, started seeing, oh, some of these people who are really into it compete, right? And then you find it versus now, like kids who've maybe gone to the gym once or twice are getting videos of someone at Sheffield pulling 800 pounds at 19 years old, right? Like that didn't happen. It didn't exist. Powerlifting was so niche and underground. And so Joselle, I'd even love your input on this, but like there's a lot of research on like sports specificity for just general kids, right? Youth athletes, like maybe someone who does make it to the NFL one day. You hear a lot of these athletes talk about how, made it to the NFL, but they grew up wrestling and doing baseball and basketball and whatever. And that wide range of athleticism really carried into their journey down the road. And I think that can be seen on like a more niche scale in powerlifting, right? Like no one just lifts and gets strong first. It's, oh, I'm a powerlifter. Have you done a meet yet? Have you been training long? No, I just started and I signed up and I'm competing later this year, right? Like the journey is so much faster. I think that contributes to burnout massively, because you're already looking at the end goal versus like loving training for years before you ever think about competing.
Yeah. I think like another spicy, like hot take on that end is I always like, if I'm like onboarding a new athlete, I ask them if they ever played sports in the past, and if they, whatever sport it is, I always ask, oh, was it a team? Like if it was like a team sport, and like if they say no, I'm kind of more of like, okay, soft skills, these are my soft skills, and really, really try to like, not like necessarily baby them, but more like, all right, they've never kind of been through like the ringer in terms of either high school or collegiate sport, or just even as a kid too, like having those hard practices, having those like conditioning, like the hell weeks and whatnot, and being able to have that mental capacity to get through it. And obviously a lot of, I coach like, a lot of my athletes, they have played sports in the past, and which is super grateful for. And like, I can kind of be like that coach of like, all right, this is going to be hard. Like, trust me in this, but it's going to work at the end of the day, and like, it's like pretty much like your hell week, like I always say like, oh, week 3 is going to be the hardest because you have extra intensity is a little bit higher and your RP is a little bit higher. And the amount of volume that's given is the same from your past week 1 and 2, but you can get through it. And by the time you hit week 4, it's smooth sailing from there too. So kind of giving them a little bit more benefit of the doubt into that, that light at the end of the tunnel. And that light at the tunnel for like an athlete is just like, oh, it's game day. We don't have to stress so much. We don't have to run sprints before we start to start practice or anything on that end. It's going to be super like, you'll be fresh leading into it.
I think this is maybe like a deeper like subtopic of like burnout, but attaching your identity to the sport, like that's a huge part of like, we've all been injured, some more recent than others. So like if you only view yourself as a power lifter, like when you can't power lift, like who are you as a person? You kind of like deflate. So I think there's a study a while ago about Olympic athletes, and they took a poll of like how many were multi-sport athletes in high school, and the vast majority were 2, 3, 4 sport athletes that were on the podium. So it just goes to show like, if you have a wider base of skills, it can translate across multiple kind of, avenues of performance or training or whatever you want to excel in, because you know how to apply yourself in different ways. You're not only putting yourself in a box, like you expand what you can kind of do as a person and what you believe in yourself to do. So I think like we don't really coach like youth powerlifters, but it's definitely one thing to consider, like as far as like burnout or early sport specificity. If you look at for example, like I was a big soccer coach, so youth soccer rates, like if you look at like a graph, they're young, they get to like maybe playing for 3 to 4 years, and then the drop off is very drastic because they are burned out, because they're playing too much, because they're only doing soccer, because they're investing too much in one sport without doing other things. So I think that's something huge to take in consideration to kind of wrap up like burnout. Like put all your eggs in one basket. Like what do you expect to happen when you drop all your eggs? Like you got nothing left. So kind of got to expand what you're working on or how you view powerlifting or yourself in the sport.
Time to join High Rocks is what I'm hearing.
High Rocks, baby. BJJ,
High
rock
Rocks or
climbing.
jiu-jitsu. Yeah.
Pickleball
Exactly.
time. Pickleball time, guys. It's
Sign up
time,
for a
guys.
marathon. Let's go.
All right, let's do it. No
I
training.
think that means we have to start our softball team.
Oh, I've been saying that. There's a league.
I'll do
next to
I'll do
our
a
gym.
softball team. I'm
Yeah,
not doing
slow pitch, baby. All right, maybe that's going to be the upcoming, not community event, but something to work on the lines of SoCal powerlifting. That'd be freaking sick.
Let's
Cool.
go.
Awesome. So let's segue into our next topic. Topic number 2 is what actually determines long-term success in powerlifting?
Who's the most successful one here? You go.
Well, I guess it defines what you have to, define success.
So
Yeah, define success. Yeah.
actually,
I mean,
Kyle might have a higher dots than me.
I think it's
Yeah.
Let's do dots then. I would say dots, based off dots.
What's your DOS, Kyle's?
457, I believe.
That's it.
Yeah.
Hey, what's yours, Alex?
479, baby.
Oh
Damn.
shit! All right,
500
there you
if I
go.
was ever healthy.
There you go. Have a higher.
All
DOS.
right. Cool. I'll take it. I think long-term success comes from understanding that it is long-term, first and foremost. I think that's huge. And with that comes, how do you find enjoyment in the day-to-day so that you can stick with it for the long term? I saw something, I don't want to misquote it. I forget who put it out, but I want to say it was Calgary Barbell. But someone put out some stat that the average powerlifting career is 2 years, right? That's not the career of anyone who ever has done anything great in the sport. And I'm not saying I'm going to do anything great, right? Genetically, unfortunately, I've accepted genetically and closing in on 30 rapidly here. I've accepted I'm probably never winning nationals, but I'll get as damn close as I can. Probably though, got to leave a little room. But like, it is a marathon, right? And none of us love marathons. That's why we do powerlifting, right? But like, just enjoying the day to day. Like, I feel so much better with myself if I got to train hard, right? So I had a coach in the past who, as I was getting back from an injury and really couldn't push anything, like it was really affecting just my love of training, right? Like, I'm just going through the motions and I understand we got to stay super sub max so I don't get hurt and whatever, but like, I couldn't push anything. It sucked. So then we found like sled drags, right? It's concentric only, no eccentric. All right, I had 5 minutes of sled drags as heavy as possible. And it was like, that's not even a kind of exercise I enjoy, right? It's damn near cardio. But I'm like, cool, I can push something hard, right? Like, just getting to exert myself with maximal effort was huge. But I think that is an example of like long-term, what can you do? What can you push? What do you enjoy, right? If you're someone who just enjoys like getting a pump, like maybe that it means that you're putting more time and energy into accessories than is, the most science-based approach for lifter, but like you're enjoying it, right? If that is looking at your training environment and saying, oh, I'm at a commercial gym and I'm the weird powerlifter in a hoodie in the corner that everyone stares at, get the hell out of there. Like, go to a powerlifting gym, right? Find a community you enjoy training around. Change your training time to train around training partners you enjoy. Like, figure out what it is to make you like it, because you're not going to like every single day. But if at the end of each week, each month, each training block, you can look back and be like, I enjoyed more of the time I put in there than time I didn't. That's how you stay in the game long term. Right. And I think just accepting that and figuring out how to do that and being focused on enjoying the day-to-day, being process oriented over results oriented, as we said, will get you where you want to go. If you're just results right away, you pick the wrong sport.
I agree. I think hot take on that too is just more of like, well, not really hot take on my end. It's like, all right, 500 dots, I'm retired from competing from powerlifting. But now going up a weight class, that's extending my timeline. But I'm not too mad about that too. Like, being more process oriented than results oriented. Results oriented is that 500 dots and I retire. But when it comes to process, I'm like, dude, like, as I'm getting closer to my meet right now, like, I'm not thinking about my meet at all. I'm just thinking about, all right, how can I just leave or squeeze amount of like extra energy or juice into each training session? Because I know that will benefit me way better leading into the day of my meet. Like, oh wow, like I push my leg press with an extra plate on one side, and like I felt really good about that, and therefore I'm like, okay, cool, like I'm not leaving anything on the table anymore right now. And I feel as if when powerlifters, they come in and they think about the goals of going to nationals and whatnot, and like, oh, I'm trying to get there in like 1 or 2 meets, their expectations are set so high, and if they fail, then therefore they're probably going to burn out as soon as possible, and then therefore like they're there's like it's not going to be the long-term thing, like you just said, Alex. It's like, no, it's just gonna be short-term. They're gonna burn out and they're gonna find something new that they think they can exceed in as well. So like, say it's like pickleball or whatever, like start running a marathon and all that stuff. But I think when it comes to like long-term success in powerlifting, I know I saw like a study, like Shell Backlund, he's been competing for like 20 years or something like that. And like, yeah, he's at Sheffield, but it shows that he puts in really hard work every single training session. I love watching his training. And obviously he's gifted with very cool leverages on that end. But I think the long term, it's like he does what works best for his end. He puts his strengths into play for the sport of powerlifting, and he got there. You know, like I noticed, like a lot of people say powerlifting is a height sport. As you can see, a lot of lifters, their rack heights are under 5 when they're competing at Sheffield for squat. But the long term, it's like, dude, like if they're so excelling very, very well into their, say, like their squat or something like that, like let that be their gateway of long-term success, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think another thing that you kind of alluded to, Tim, is like internal versus external motivation,
Yep.
right? Like if you are only motivated by the people around you cheering you on, or social media, or placing at some big meet, like you're not gonna last, right? And I used to hear that in the past and kind of think like, oh, that just means that this person's weak, right? But like the truth of the matter is, like every lifter experiences setbacks, right? We've seen Ray Williams, who first guy to squat 1,000 pounds, right? We've seen him have bad meets. I believe bomb out of one of the big meets, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Right, the one where he like fully bailed. Yeah. Like we've seen him have bad meets. We've seen Russell Orey, who was winning every championship back to back, have bad meets. Like shit happens. It's shit out of your control. An injury. Maybe someone just beats you that day. Like whatever it is, right? Like at some point, you're not going to be the it guy. And that's at the highest level there. That's within your gym. That's within your social media following. That's within whatever. So like, if you're just doing this because you want other people to say, wow, that's so cool, you are going to burn out. You need to enjoy it. And if you don't enjoy it, find a way to make it so that you do.
Mm-hmm. I think another thing to kind of help is like stacking short-term goals to find like mini wins. Like actually, Kyle, you were talking about this, about how you were going from sets of 5 to sets of 3, and then you were really eager to get back to sets of 5 because you felt like the way you ended your last macro cycle was really successful. And so suddenly you were finding a lot more wins. And so it's like, these are, 8-week chunks of time and just finding these wins. But as you continue to stack them and you zoom out, then you see, the high level of success. And I myself even do that as well. Obviously I recognize the pattern, volume block, strength block, peaking block. So it's like, if I stack these wins beforehand, I get really excited leading up to those heavier sessions because I've stacked all these wins underneath me. And, just having, it's like you were saying, Tim, like, oh, I'm going to go to nationals after 2 meets. It's like, sure, shoot for the moon. But like, if you set such a high standard that you don't know where the end goal is, yeah, you're certainly going to get burned out because you feel like you're racing towards something that's not happening. But if you think a little bit more short term and just stack them over time, I think it's going to be a lot more rewarding and probably keep you more motivated over time.
I like it. Kyle?
I think just like what Alex was saying, that it's like a marathon. I think with powerlifting especially, I just think it's like nice to have like the foresight to kind of acknowledge like how this could benefit you in the long run, because we are strength training at the end of the day. And I think that kind of goes back to the old topic, because like everyone was zoomed out doing all these different variations, and powerlifting wasn't this like super specific thing. I mean, it was, but I think people just did it as strength training and did all these different things and just happened to step on the platform and put up these lifts. But now it's like super hyper specific. I just think acknowledging like this is going to benefit us in the long run, in terms of this longevity and whatnot. I think so long as we're, natty and stuff for the most part, or just generally staying healthy. But like an example is like, you're talking Shell, but also like David Ricks, squatting 700 at 61 in comp, for example. It's like, it's doable. You can find ways to just, fit your life into it, or fit it within your life rather. And just, I think that's been like my journey, is just how do you balance training with school, part-time? How do you balance training with school full-time plus a job? How do you balance training with a full-time job? and then now being married now, and then having my first kid. It's like finding those ways. It's like, I think it stands as like the backbone of like our lives, and it's like just important. And I think that's pretty much it.
That's why you hire us as your coaches, guys. That's one of the biggest things. Yeah, I mean, reverting back to that, Kyle, it's just more of like, shout out Ali Navki. He just had a kid as well too, and we're trying to balance his training. And when he first came to me saying like, "Hey man, like my schedule is going to be pretty crazy with my newborn son," and I was like, one, don't panic in terms of that, and especially if you do want to, like, I think we had big aspirations of him wanting to go to nationals as a master lifter, but obviously at the birth of his son, having to push them things around and maybe not competing anytime soon. But he's always telling me like, dude, like first, like I just got a new job and now my kid's here. There's like a lot of adjustments that need to be made right now. And I'm like, first thing I do is not panic. Like we work this out. And another thing that really helped out a ton is kind of extending his block in his training, and one thing I told him, like, hey man, I'm going to program you 4 weeks of training, but if you can get it done in 4 weeks, that's great. But if you need to get it done in 5 weeks, if you have travel, if anything comes into play, I'm okay with that. It may not be as consistent as we want, but knowing how like that end goal of completion of a block has him more satisfied versus, oh shoot, I missed this day, so I have to skip this day, and then therefore you're more backtracking instead. So I'm like, dude, just go by the weeks, go by the days, just get that session done, put what you can, go by the RP if you need to versus the weight recommendation. But my main goal for you is just to complete the whole block, and that's it. And we ran that. It took us, I think, 5.5 weeks to complete a 4-week block, and he was okay with that. And he was like, dude, I've actually never felt stronger than before, even when we were getting ready for a meet prep, and he PR'd his like deadlift recently, which was pretty sick. So like, yeah, little things like that in terms of like long-term success for a powerlifter. It's like, it's either one, it could be so minuscule of just like, oh cool, like I finished a training block, or two, it's just like, okay cool, I have a really high dot score too. So like, again, it depends on the person at the end of the day, but like how we kind of gauge that and determine per athlete really differs.
I think to just extend on what I said earlier too, like the dot score is like great, and also just kind of stacking those wins over the years too, like despite all those things on paper getting busier, and most people hang it up by then, but it's like I feel like every couple of meets or every meet, making steady improvements on the dot score, on the total. And it's just, it just goes to show that this is a long game, and we have a long time to go. This is one of those sports where age is like, we have a big window to succeed and like kind of be in that prime. I think it just takes like a lot of time to gain that mass too. So it's just, other sports is like you kind of, burn fast, and you get past your prime pretty quick for the most part. But powerlifting is like, you see these examples, and it's like goes to show like what you can do and achieve.
Shout out LeBron James, I guess. The older he gets, the better he gets in a way. Yeah. Anyone else related to this topic?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, just going off of that, Kyle, it's just like, you hear so many people like, oh, I'm 30, I'm past my prime. And it's just like, I want to be 40 soon, and I'm still feeling like ready to go, Just like last year, I put on 30 pounds or 30 kilos on my deadlifts, at like what people would consider old in powerlifting. So it's like, you're only done when you think you're done. So,
True.
You just got to want it. That's really all it comes down to.
But you're handsome. You look 24. So, yeah.
I did not realize you were that old. Damn. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Damn.
You're like, maybe we should be stripping.
John, let's go to 3 days a week instead versus 5. Like, let the old man rest, I guess.
I'll work with Giselle. I'll switch over to Giselle's.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
It also helps to just like have something to kind of motivate you, or like not motivate you, but like to keep that fire under you. Because I mean, we're all, training is our life, and I don't see that changing for any of us really. But having that like that driving factor, whether it's like your relationship or like having like my daughter, is like, damn, I want to like be like strong as long as she knows me, and like set that example or that tone too, or just be that rock. I think also too what Alex said earlier, I believe. Like, wait, I just lost my thought, but
Was it more like
but-
showing up for others on Instagram or social media?
something to that effect.
Yeah.
But just like, I don't know, being that rock or being that example, like, you know, we're not us without training, and it's like,
Yeah.
for everything to fall in line in our lives, like training, like what are we gonna do? Not train? Like this like our identity. It's like if I don't train, I die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to keep going regardless, but that factor really just, it helps drive it home.
I think like the other motivation for myself too, like since I'm like the one in meet prep right now, is like I want to show up for my athletes, to be honest. And like it's been 3 years since I've competed. But like showing them that I can walk the walk versus like, and not just talk in a way, and proving to them that I train hard, and hopefully that forecasts as well to a lot of my athletes that either see me training, like, wow, dude, like Tim's pushing really, really hard at the gym. It like that will motivate me to, as well, to maybe get in the same position as him. Not saying like I have an elite total or anything on that end, but it's just like, wow, like he puts in the work, he's pushing accessories, and like he's also like having fun with it too. Like knowing that I have that end goal at the end of the for next month, but more likely it's just like I want to show up for my athletes. I don't want to just be like that guy behind the computer telling them what to do, and like really proving myself to like, yeah, I am a powerlifting coach, but also I am a competitor as well too.
Yeah, you better win or I'm dropping you, bro.
Yeah, I think that's that thing too with like powerlifting, is like it's so relatively new. So other sports or like martial arts and whatnot, like you have the old master or like the old like competitor, like, coaching these teams. But powerlifting is so new and young relatively. It's like your coach better be in it with you too. So that's like the big difference there, is like, so yeah, like showing up for your athletes and just being that rock for them as well. Like, hey, you better do this because look at me, I'm in it with you. So
Yeah. Like one like thing that really stood out to me recently was squatting with one of my athletes. Shout out Jacob Nave. It was really busy one Monday evening, and I'm like, I started squatting, and he's all like, it was pretty busy. I'm like, yo, you want to work in with me? Like, he's like, yeah, I'm down. Like, cool. We motivate each other really, really well throughout that training session. I was talking about my training, saying like, dude, it's super boring right now. It's like week -2, and I'm barely hitting anything crazy. And but now it's kind of like finding more of like that camaraderie in the sense of like, oh, cool, like Tim, like he's in meet prep as well too, but I'm in meet prep, and we kind of are like in the trenches together, whether it's a hard session or it's a really easy session, like we can share that struggle in powerlifting, or share the weight of like, even though I coach him, it's just more of like, dang, like he's actually walking the walk right now, and he's putting up some good numbers in terms of a squat or something like that. But like they get it, and for a lot of people to see, like a lot of coaches, I'm not saying not a lot of coaches nowadays, but it seems like they don't really train, and they're just kind of like that person behind the computer, behind the spreadsheets or whatever, and kind of just figuring out what works best for them. But I would always want to, one thing I always tell my athletes, I actually do the accessories or try any of the accessories that I do before I start giving them to them specifically. Like I want to see if this sucks or if it's really beneficial. Therefore, I wouldn't give it to you, or I would give it to you into your workouts.
Set the standard.
Yeah, set the standard. Cool. Anyone else? Anything catered to this topic? We're good? Cool.
Oh, no, I think that's about it.
Cool.
yeah.
All right. Move on to our last one. Let's do it. So training soft doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you fragile. So meaning like when playing it safe actually increases risk. So I can start off with this one. But one of the biggest things I notice is a lot of people, not going to bag on like, what's his name, JBG coaching or anything on that end. He wants everything like isolated in terms of like back work, shoulder work, all that, whatever, like accessory movements. He's not really big into powerlifting movements, but a lot of big takeaways are like, oh, chest supported this, supported that, supported this, but in terms of, I know you and I, Kyle, kind of talked about this, is trying to be like quote unquote anti-fragile, cringe. But in terms of like being able to be like uncomfortable in some like plane or ranges of motion or planes of motion, you know? So like one of the things I implemented a lot to my training, I didn't tell my coach that I'm doing this, but is the bent over T-bar row. Sorry, Alex, I know we got rid of the Arsenal one and now I'm doing it again. But the
I
bent over
always like
T-bar
that
row.
machine.
I know. And I actually been straying away from the chest supported T-bar row. One thing is everyone knows me for having a lower back made out of glass, and for me to like kind of coddle that lower back would be to do more supported stuff like chest supported T-bar row, like half kneeling single arm cable row or something like that, and not really kind of like my lower back isn't working too much. One of the biggest things I noticed once I started implementing that, at first it was hard, it sucked, but now I'm all like, oh wait, like every time I get to my deadlift, I don't feel a pain response like when I'm hinging over or when I'm locking out. It doesn't feel like my erectors are going to explode or my spine's going to snap in half because I've been implementing those heavy T-bar rows. And yeah, like for example, getting away from like those meta stuff we see on Instagram, like, oh, you got to do this type of supported variation of accessories to isolate that certain muscle. But at the same time, I feel like that's been kind of coddling a lot of lifters and maybe increasing the risk of injury in most things. And for example, I know Kyle, you've been doing like good mornings with the SSB. I think you did like 170 for like 8 reps or some shit. And that was freaking cool. You know, like, like I used to do good mornings beforehand when I first started powerlifting. I was running 5 through 1 and I would do good mornings after I would deadlift. And maybe like my work capacity for my lower back was heightened at that point, and my lower back was as strong as possible to deadlift whatever I could, you know, and I wasn't feeling fragile, you know. I know a lot of people tend to like, it takes a while for them to warm up, me included, but once I start like moving around and getting some good like rotation into my my planes, it's just more of like, all right, cool, I can move around. I'm not scared to pick up like a heavy dumbbell. Like today we're moving all of our dumbbells today. Like I wasn't scared to move like the 150s or something like that, you know. Like beforehand, maybe ask me that like 6 months ago, I'm like, oh fuck, I have to brace so hard to like grab this 150 right now. I'm so scared I'm going to snap my back and my training's going to go to shit. But yeah, I feel like the anti-fragile type of accessories has been pretty beneficial on my end. I've obviously been introducing that a lot to some of my athletes. But again, that's like one of my hot takes in terms of like, you can stray away from a lot of like the isolated movements into your training.
Yeah, I think it just depends on the goal, right? It's funny how like how much overlap there is between powerlifting and like bodybuilding or like physique goals, and then how much is different, right? Like if your goal is simply to build the best lats, you want only your lat to be bearing the load, right? So like a chest supported row is an awesome option. If you want to work your lats, but also the spinal erectors and all the musculature that's involved in maintaining positioning on a deadlift, something like a T-bar row is going to be significantly better, or even a bent over barbell row, which fell out of favor for years because the idea was like, oh, that's going to fatigue your lower back too much, right? And it's like, yeah, if you have a bad program, right? If you're doing heavy barbell rows and then deadlifting the next day, yeah. But if you're structuring things accordingly, you can recover from it, right? And then you're practicing the ability to maintain that position, which is awesome, right? So it just really is, what is your goal, right? So like, I think it's a great point, Tim, but then I also definitely have clients who like can maintain posture, but like just need to get more jacked, need to build their lats, need to build their upper back. Cool, we're going to do a ton of chest support stuff. It totally depends on kind of the result you're looking for.
Definitely.
Yeah, I feel like kind of going back to like the meta and whatnot, and like everything was all about super specific, everything powerlifting related, and then for bodybuilding stuff, the increased musculature is always, everything was super supported and whatnot. I just feel like there's this big gap that's missing. So now I think we can bring back some of these hard but very good exercises, like the SSB good mornings they're really freaking hard at first, and then you adapt to it. And now I'm pushing decently heavy stuff. Today was like a bit of a back end deload for SSB. So squatting 175 on the SSB for 5 today was harder than doing the good morning with it last week for 6. But like stuff like that, or like the bent over rows, and you know, that you're doing the bent over T-bar rows, and all these things, or like even dumbbell rows, shoulder presses, all that stuff. instead of like all machine. It's like I feel like early on in my lifting, I did all these things, and I feel like nothing, although being younger too, but I felt a lot more resilient to the stress that, like picking up those awkward things when you're cold or whatever, versus maybe even just like a year or two or so ago, everything was very much like split down the middle, where it's like super specific comp stuff and then really supported accessories because we want to optimize that. But then I felt relatively, I mean, although I feel like I have a really strong low back, I felt relatively fragile. Getting up out of bed or something was like harder, or just simple things outside of the gym were like tougher. Whereas now, kind of bring those things back, it's like now I'm smarter about applying those movements versus before, especially, getting into the 30s where you have to be a little bit more cautious about certain things. But I just feel a lot more resilient to a lot of stress. I just feel like a lot more, capacity. Like I can fill my cup a lot more than before, where any little drop added to the cup, I'm gonna fall apart, or I'm gonna overflow and like just not be able to recover. So it's like you're capable of a lot more than you think.
Yeah, I feel like if you asked me this like a year ago, Alex, to move the lat pull down or the cable machine today, I'd be like, I would take extreme caution on that day, be like, oh my God, I'm so scared to like move this or all the dumbbells or whatever, like we had to like mentally prepare myself to do like such a big task. Like me or John always complain when we have to move the gym around for the meets and stuff, or like now I'm like, all right, it's gonna suck for a little bit, but like I can trust in myself. Like with, for example, say Kyle, you and I were kind of talking about like, ooh, let's bring back pen lay rows or something like that,
Oh yeah.
and like cool pen lay rows, bring that back, and like now catering that to like say real life scenario, we're moving machines, combo racks, whatever. Like, all right, cool. Like this isn't so hard in us, or it's not so taxing at the end of the day. And I feel like that does translate really well into a lot of powerlifting. And I feel as if like a lot of people, not to say a lot of people, but more of like, it's okay to have more of that like body English type of sway into your that like swagger into your towards like movements in power or in accessories. So yeah.
Yeah, even like the 90s era bodybuilders, I mean, they got as jacked as they did, and they're still touted as like there's a golden era for sure, the 70s and the 80s, but the 90s is where like the mass monsters were with the conditioning. I feel like everyone kind of points to their grainy look and whatnot, to all those heavy compounds they did, and like those unsupported rows and all that stuff, everything with body English, they went heavy. Whereas today it's like, it's kind of like a science experiment where they're able to do this all with the Smith machine, and everything's a machine based thing. And the drug, like the whatever the mixture is, and that's kind of like doing all the work there. So it's just like kind of goes to show like whether it's powerlifting or strength, just in general, or bodybuilding, like there's a lot of merit to it.
Yeah,
Ronnie Coleman squatted 800 solid ass pounds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is like that anti-fragile type of like movement. I don't know. I think it's just like it kind of sets you up for success at the end of it. In the long term, it's just like, oh, cool. Like say you had a heavy deadlift day and then you're helping a friend move or something like that, and like, oh, okay, it's not too stressful on that end. It, like you kind of want to show up for that in the long term, and like out like non-powerlifting or training specifics.
Yeah.
Even going to that comment about Ronnie Coleman, like maybe I have to look at the very, very specifics, but I think it was always thought that, oh, well, look at his body now, it's like destroyed, he didn't do it right. But like then I saw it cited that it was a botched back surgery that caused all his issues. Now it wasn't the heavy squats or the bent over rows, it was the surgery kind of gone wrong, and that's like kind of the big risk with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Also, we won't make you go for 800 reps for 2 if you're 2 weeks out from the Mr. Olympia and stage lane.
Yeah,
True.
Cowards.
But hey, his only regret was that he didn't go for another rep.
exactly.
I think 2 reps, I thought.
Legend.
He wanted to do it for 4.
That's my goat. I don't care about the back surgery.
Yeah. Blame the surgeon's fault. Stupid. Cool. Anyone else want to elaborate on this?
I think that's it for mine. Or sorry, John, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I mean, there's a limit to everything. I try to be anti-fragile, and I just made it worse. So just listen to your body at the same time.
Real.
But now
I
you're
like
getting
that.
Also, listen to your
impact.
coach, right?
No, who does that?
Ooh.
Who does that?
I feel good with SSBs.
I did.
And then
It
it
was the
all
deadlift.
and then
It
it
was the
all
It was the deadlift.
came crashing down. And look what's back in program. Hatfield squats. Da-da-da-da.
I blame the deadlift more than anything else.
Well,
Zercher deadlifts now.
Hell yeah.
cool. All right. I think that concludes everything. Anyone else want to elaborate on that topic? Feeling pretty good. Sounds
We're
good.
good.
All right. Thanks everyone. Again, we'll try to do this one time a month, and again, come up with these 3 topics. Yeah. Other than that, hope everyone has a great day. We'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
That was pretty good. I thought we could stay on and talk.